In the quiet corners of human history, there are crimes that resist explanation, that leave investigators baffled and the public unnerved. Murders committed in the dead of night, victims found in grotesque arrangements, entire families disappearing without a trace. These are the acts that haunt the shadows of society. The Zodiac Killer, for instance, struck fear into the hearts of San Francisco in the late 1960s and early 70s. Despite dozens of letters, ciphers, and taunting messages sent to newspapers, his identity was never discovered. The cryptic codes contained symbols and numbers that still confound codebreakers today. Some theorists claim the killer possessed knowledge of the occult, leaving hidden messages not only for authorities but for the cosmos itself, as if taunting humanity with his understanding of a reality beyond ordinary perception. The terror was amplified not just by the murders themselves, but by the psychological manipulation, the feeling that someone was always watching, always steps ahead, a shadow in the night that could not be grasped. Beyond the Zodiac, history is littered with disappearances that defy reason. The disappearance of the Sodder children in 1945, for example, is more than a tale of tragedy. It is a puzzle of smoke, ashes, and inexplicable evidence. Fire consumed the home, yet the bodies of the children were never found. Letters, photographs, and sightings over decades suggested that they may have survived, possibly abducted, possibly part of a plan orchestrated by unseen forces. Some researchers whisper of government involvement, while others suggest darker, almost supernatural possibilities, rituals, secret societies, or entities that thrive in the spaces between reality and our understanding. The case remains unsolved, the fear lingering as if the house itself absorbed the loss, leaving behind a shadow that stretches across decades. Even more disturbing are crimes where the perpetrators may have never existed in a conventional sense. Certain murder cases in Europe and America hint at beings that move unseen, leaving victims in patterns that cannot be explained by ordinary criminal behavior. Victims are sometimes found arranged in symbols reminiscent of ancient rituals, with messages scrawled in blood or etched in impossible locations. Police and investigators often report feeling an unnatural presence at crime scenes, equipment malfunctioning inexplicably, shadows moving where no human stands. The line between human malice and paranormal interference becomes blurred, creating an atmosphere in which the mind struggles to differentiate between nightmare and reality. Unsolved crimes are not merely about violence, they are about the disturbing gaps in understanding, the voids where human reasoning fails. In the case of the Black Dahlia, Elizabeth Short's brutal murder in 1947 Los Angeles stunned the nation. Her body was discovered grotesquely mutilated, cut in half with surgical precision, and displayed in a way that seemed almost ritualistic. The media frenzy, coupled with the grotesque nature of the crime, created a macabre mythology around her death. Over time, countless suspects were investigated, theories proliferated, yet no conviction was ever made. Some writers and researchers suggest that the nature of the crime points to something beyond a human killer, an intelligence obsessed with control, beauty, and terror, a mind capable of understanding anatomy and psychology in ways that seem almost inhuman. Witnesses claimed hearing whispers in the streets, seeing fleeting shadows near the crime scene, as if the city itself conspired to obscure the truth. Other infamous cases, like Jack the Ripper, amplify the tension between human evil and something darker. Operating in Victorian London, the killer struck with precision, leaving victims mutilated and bodies posed. No fingerprints, no definitive identity, and no definitive motive were ever discovered. Theories abound, from deranged humans to occult practitioners. and some suggest that the killer may have been guided or assisted by forces beyond human perception, manipulating circumstances in ways that evade conventional investigation. Scholars and paranormal investigators alike have noted that the foggy streets, the gas lamps, and the urban decay created a psychological landscape where fear itself became a participant in the crime. Those who delve too deeply into these cases often describe feelings of paranoia, visions, or nightmares, suggesting that the crimes themselves leave a kind of psychic residue, a dark imprint on those who study them. Some disappearances defy even more concrete explanations. The case of the Flannan Isles lighthouse keepers in 1900 involves 3 men who vanished without trace, leaving behind meals, logs, and an untouched lighthouse. Theories range from rogue waves and accidents to alien abduction and otherworldly interference. The isolation, the relentless storms, and the eerie emptiness of the lighthouse make the case chillingly mysterious. Investigators and visitors often describe unsettling sensations, feelings of being watched, or auditory hallucinations of whispers carried by the wind. Such phenomena suggest that some crimes or vanishings may extend beyond the natural world, touching dimensions of reality that humans cannot perceive or control. Perhaps the most terrifying aspect of unsolved crimes is that they hint at forces beyond human comprehension. Some theorists argue that certain criminals or the events themselves are conduits for dark energy, tapping into psychological or paranormal dimensions that amplify violence and fear. Ritualistic killings, unexplained disappearances, and the pattern of seemingly random atrocities suggest an underlying order that defies logical explanation. Ancient symbols found at crime scenes, repeated patterns across centuries, and synchronicities between events hint at connections that may be deliberate or perhaps orchestrated by entities whose motives are incomprehensible to the human mind. Modern crimes continue to bear echoes of the past, suggesting that unsolved horrors persist not just because of human failure, but because the universe itself is indifferent and enigmatic, sometimes intervening in ways that remain hidden. Some investigators have documented glitches in surveillance footage, voices captured on audio that were never spoken, and shadows that move contrary to natural laws. Victims' last communications often contain cryptic references, unexplainable imagery, or premonitions, as if the crime itself carries a consciousness beyond the perpetrators. Scholars in the fields of paranormal research suggest that these crimes leave psychic echoes, dark imprints that persist in the locations, objects, and memories surrounding the events. Ultimately, the fascination with unsolved crimes lies not in the hope of resolution, but in the existential dread they evoke. They remind us that evil may not always be human, that darkness can extend beyond motive or reason, and that some mysteries are never meant to be understood. Whether by human hand, by accident, or by forces beyond comprehension, these crimes create ripples in reality, leaving society, investigators, and even history itself haunted. And in the quiet moments, when one contemplates the shadows and empty spaces of the world, there lingers the unsettling thought: some darkness watches, waits, and shapes our reality in ways we cannot perceive, a persistent reminder that not all truths are meant to be discovered.